let's move into the character of God. People ask questions like, how can God, a holy God, be full of love and be filled with wrath at the same time? How is that simultaneously possible without it being contradictory?
Well, it's not contradictory at all, because in order for God to be truly loving, he must hate that which is contrary to his love, or what is contrary to his holiness. And therefore, for God to love, he must necessarily hate what is the opposite of that love. And so God will hate things such as murder and adultery and lying and dishonoring of parents and so forth. It's like someone who says, well, I love children, but I don't hate child abusers. If you love children, then you'll hate those who would harm children,
Sure.
and hate actions that would be detrimental to the health of the child. And so the God of the Bible is a God of love, but that is not his only attribute. And it's very common in evangelical Christianity to focus on that one attribute of God, which is love. But God is much more than just love. He's holy, he's just, he's righteous, and so forth. And the beautiful thing about the gospel, John, is that at the cross, both the love and the wrath of God came together. They came together at the cross. So when we look at the cross of Christ, we see the love of God poured out for sinners.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, we see the wrath of God inflicted on Christ, the sin bearer, to meet the righteous demands of God's law.
So he who knew no sin, he who was full of love,
Exactly.
became sin on the cross.
That we might become the righteousness of God in him. And so at the cross, you do have a crossroads. You do have the merging of God's love and God's wrath. The biblical God is a God of justice, and he is also a God of mercy. He cannot be merciful without a moral law. Mercy is given in the context of law. So if the court is merciful to you, it's because you've broken the law and the court has chosen to give you clemency. And so to speak of God as just love, who winks at evil and sin, is to give a very partial picture of God.
It seems to me that central to understanding a lot of these complicated questions in society today that sometimes puts us on the defensive, it seems to me that a lot of our answers can be found as we study the attributes of God.
Indeed.
And know the person of God.
Indeed.
Because God is holy. He's not going to be more holy tomorrow than he was today. He's not more holy today than he was yesterday.
Right. God is actually holy and constantly holy and will ever be holy. And therefore, justice is, the scripture says in the Psalms that justice is one of the foundations of his throne. And therefore, the God of the Bible is a judge. The judge of all the earth shall do right. And I am thankful for such a God, because that means that the evil that is committed in this world, which is gratuitous evil, it will one day be rectified in the last day, when God will balance the scales of his justice, and he will indeed bring justice to bear on those.
So I would just use this opportunity to ask you this question. Are you prepared to meet this God?